A lot of my mics are Shure mics. I've been working with Shure for many years, from the early system days. And so my full drum kit is mic'd up with Shure stuff, and the pianos, and I've got a couple of SM7s for vocals. Same for the guitar mic, I use the KSM 32s or 44s. I've got a cool stereo mic there. I don't know what the number is from Shure that I like using for the piano. But for my vocals, I actually, in the studio, I use a tube mic. I use a Corby with the U47 or U67 head. They've got replaceable heads. I've been using that for the last number of years. I used it on the last two system records as well. So I use that for vocals, but I've used different, I've tried the C1000 and the U87 and 67 and 47, and and this one really seems to work for my sound. So this is my ISO booth, 2 vocals here. Got my main tube mic, Corby, AC30 here for purposes of isolating, poetry books and melodica. Gotta have one in every studio. What else? Little toys that make sound. I started playing keyboards before I played guitar, but not by a long difference in time. When I was in college, I started playing both, really. So they've both been an instrument for writing for me for a long time. But I love both equally, and I write differently on both, and primarily, in the first probably 10 years, I was writing mostly on electric guitar. And then in the last 5-6 years, I've been writing primarily on acoustic instruments, either piano or acoustic guitar. And it's a different vibe. But I also write electronically a lot. Like I'll use Acid or I'll use Pro Tools and just line up beats and samples and then record live instrumentation on top of that and do a lot of stuff, jazz stuff, horns. Most of what I've been doing recently for the record is kind of combining all that, using my live experience in live recording with live instruments and doing a lot of electronic stuff that I've been doing over the years, jazz instruments, and then writing using sampled strings to write for an orchestra or for string pieces and brass pieces, which is what I used for my second solo record, Imperfect Harmonies is what we decided to call it. Most of my production stuff for soft synths or my orchestrations I do on this, the M-Audio controller, because it's got all the faders and buttons and knobs. This is really cool. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. It's the see-through Axis. This is the bigger one. They make the smaller one now as well. And it's a different way of playing music. It's, instead of having a keyboard like this, you have the buttons going up and down, and it's a whole different way, so you write differently accordingly. A bunch of stuff from Korg, Korg M3 here, and Dave Smith Tetra, this I just got. It's a really cool little analog box. I'm really into his stuff as well, although I don't have any of his bigger synths. Moog Little Fatty, I've got a Moog Voyager there. I've got a Moog Theremin there. I'm about to get the Moog guitar as well. This is a really great piece of gear, the Omnichord from the 80s. If you haven't heard this thing, you should. Anyway, little toy pianos, a must in every studio. I've got all sorts of string libraries that I use, and I'll write it in MIDI so that I can always go change the sound, quantize it, fix it, work with someone to fix it, and then we can import into Sibelius and print out the score and check it up, make sure, have someone who knows how to read and write music to check it to make sure everything's cool. Because I've never studied music, but I write for orchestra. So over the years, just having the experience in using the gear and I've always known what sound I'm going for. If I'm recording guitars, I'll dial it up and I know what I'm going for. Like, same with pianos, assuming that it's the right piano and it sounds great. So it's all about just dialing it in. And I'm not the best engineer, but I dial it in and I play it, and if I like it, I'll keep it. If not, I'll change it. At least I've got the melody parts and the rhythm and everything recorded. There's a lot of pianos that I re-recorded for my new record because I'd written them on this piano. It's not the best sounding piano. I wanted to go back and record them on a really great sounding piano, so I did that. Same with some instruments, but I generally keep what I record just because it's got a vibe sometimes, even if it doesn't sound great. I have a piano in New Zealand that I use. It's an old Gulbranson 1920s player piano. It sounds amazing. It's a little out of tune, and I've kept it that way, but when I use it for certain songs, I don't replace it with MIDI pianos because it just sounds really interesting. It sounds like it's a unique character that, cannot be replicated. So that's important. When I record guitars, like electric guitars specifically, I like to use, there's a box there by Little Labs. Basically, you're able to hook up 3 amps simultaneously and record your performance into 3 tracks, or multiple tracks, depending on how you mic it, obviously. And so I'll hook up like the Marshall, the Mesa, and an Vox AC30 in the control room, separated, obviously, and record all 3 at once, and then mix them as I need them. We've got a bunch of amps. We've got the Sun amp, Fender Twin, Line 6, Mesa Boogie, all mic'd, Ampeg, right there for the bass, another Fender Twin, Marshall cab, guitars. We've got a Line 6 Variax guitar here. We've got a little Fender mandolin. We've got PRS, which I like for the high-end stuff. SG, which is great. Les Paul's always great. This is an awesome guitar. It's a 12-string Rickenbacker from 1965. It's a beautiful guitar. I've got a couple of Fender Strats and my Les Paul Custom. It's a 1983, I want to say, Les Paul Custom, which is the thickest sounding guitar I have. Jackson. This is a really great guitar. It's a sitar. It's an electric sitar. Got this a number of years ago. It's got some sympathetic strings and great sound. If I really want to thicken up the sound, then I'll go back and start patching different amps with different cabs. So I have an old Sun amp there, so I'll take the Mesa, throw it into the Sun amp. I'll take the Marshall, throw it into the Mesa cab. AC30 is the AC30, obviously you can't touch that. And so I'll throw that on there, and then I'll just layer everything for guitars and EQ it correctly. I'm not great at EQing. I'll leave that to the mixer usually, but I'll do that. With bass, I usually like to keep it simple and just record with a DI and then go back and reamp everything. When we did the reamping, I used Ashdown, Ampeg, DI, and then I threw another line out to like the Sun amp with a distortion pedal on it, so that you have all these sounds to work with for mixing. This was for the first Elected Dead record that I did. Yeah. I had my friend Dan, he did a little guitars as well, additional guitars, but I did the majority of it, and I did all the bass. I did not play the drums, but I programmed the drums and then got 2 great drummers to play live drums. One was John from System and the other was Brain from Primus for the first Elected Dead record. On this record, my second solo record, I've got Troy Ziegler, who's my drummer on tour from the FCC. He recorded drums, live drums. I did all the electronic beats. Mario, who plays with us on tour, Mario Payarullo, he recorded the bass. And I've got a lot of appreciated synth bass and stuff, and I did all the writing of the strings and horns, and we recorded live strings and horns in Los Angeles and brought them back to the studio. I did all the guitars and pianos and all that stuff, of course.